Love, they say, is a flame. At first, it burns bright, consuming everything in its path. But what they don't tell you is that flames can wither, turning into embers, barely flickering. That's what happened to my marriage. What started as a love so fierce it made my heart race had slowly settled into something predictable, something distant, something empty. Michael and I had been inseparable once. At 25, I married the man who made me laugh until my sides hurt, who would pull me close in the middle of the night just to feel my warmth. But over the years, the passion faded, replaced by routine, silence, and a distance I didn't know how to bridge. It didn't happen all at once. It was little things at first. The way his touch became absent, the way our conversations turned into mere exchanges of necessity. I would dress up, put on perfume, wear lingerie that once made his eyes darken with desire, but now, he barely noticed. He'd come home, nod in my direction, and sink into the couch with his phone, as if I were nothing more than background noise. I started questioning myself. Was I not enough? Was I not beautiful anymore? Had I become invisible? And then, there was Lisa, my best friend. We had shared everything over the years: laughter, heartbreak, dreams. Her husband, Daniel, had always been there, a quiet presence in the background of our friendship. But then, something changed. It was Lisa's birthday party. I wore a red dress that hugged me in all the right places, just hoping that Michael would look at me the way he used to. But he didn't. He barely looked at me at all. But Daniel did. "Red suits you," he said. Simple words. Not flirtatious, not inappropriate. But something about the way he said them made my breath hitch. And just like that, I felt seen. It started subtly. Little moments, innocent conversations. The way he actually listened when I spoke, the way he noticed when I was tired or when I had changed something about myself. The way his eyes lingered just a second too long. I told myself it was harmless, that I was just enjoying the attention I had been starved of for so long. But deep down, I knew better. I was walking a fine line, and one wrong step could send me plummeting into something I wasn't sure I could pull myself out of. If you've ever felt unseen in your own relationship, then this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's talk about the secrets no one admits to. It started with the smallest things, tiny moments that, at first, seemed so harmless, so insignificant. And yet, when I look back, those moments were the foundation of something dangerous, something exhilarating. Daniel was attentive in ways Michael had stopped being. He noticed the details, how my laughter was quieter than before, how my eyes held a sadness I didn't voice. He asked me questions about myself, not out of politeness, but because he truly cared to know. "You don't smile the way you used to," he said one evening when we bumped into each other at the grocery store. "What's wrong?" I could have lied. I could have brushed it off. But when someone truly sees you, it becomes impossible to hide. "I don't know," I admitted, forcing a weak smile. "Maybe I'm just tired." "Tired of what?" His voice was soft, but there was something else in it too: concern, curiosity, something unspoken. I hesitated, my fingers gripping the shopping cart handle. "Everything." That was all I said, but he understood. His eyes searched mine, and for the first time in years, I felt like someone noticed me, not as a wife or a mother or a woman filling space, but as Joan. The version of me I had long forgotten. We didn't exchange numbers. We didn't arrange secret meetings. Not yet. But from that night on, Daniel became a constant thought in my mind. I replayed our conversations, the way his eyes lingered on me, the way his voice made me feel safe. And then, Lisa invited us over for dinner. Michael, as usual, was glued to his phone, barely engaging in conversation. Lisa was her usual bubbly self, and Daniel watched me. Not overtly, not in a way that would raise suspicion. But I felt it. When I excused myself to go to the kitchen, he followed a few minutes later, carrying empty glasses. "You're different tonight," he said quietly, placing the glasses in the sink. "What's on your mind?" I should have walked away. I should have laughed it off. But instead, I let out a breath I didn't know I had been holding. "You ever feel like you're living a life you don't recognize?" I asked, not expecting an answer. He nodded, his gaze unwavering. "More than you know." It was in that moment, in that quiet kitchen, with the hum of conversation in the background, that something between us shifted. It was an invisible thread tightening, pulling us toward something neither of us were ready to admit. And just like that, the line blurred. Have you ever found yourself drawn to someone, even when you knew it was wrong? Let me know in the comments. And if this story has you hooked, don't forget to subscribe. Lisa was out of town. That's how it started. A casual dinner with Daniel, one that should have been innocent. But the air between us was different that night, charged, expectant. We laughed over wine, the conversation dipping into places it shouldn't. His hand brushed against mine, lingering just long enough for my skin to burn where he touched me. And then, there was silence, thick, weighted. He reached for me first. Or maybe I reached for him. I can't remember. But when our lips met, it was like unlocking something forbidden yet longed for. A deep, aching hunger took over, one that had been simmering beneath the surface for far too long. His hands roamed my body, exploring, relearning what it meant to be desired. My breath hitched as he whispered my name against my skin, his voice filled with need. I should have stopped it. But I didn't, because in that moment, I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a woman trapped in loneliness. I was alive. Lisa was out of town. Daniel and I had both known this for weeks. When he texted me, just a simple, "Are you free tonight?" I should have ignored it. I should have laughed it off and gone back to my life. But I didn't. I stared at the message for a long moment, my heart pounding. I could hear Michael in the next room, his fingers tapping on his phone, his mind somewhere far away. The loneliness in my chest ached, clawing at me. And so I replied, "Yes." That evening, I walked into Daniel's house, and nothing about it felt wrong. The wine was already open. The lights were dim. The air was thick with something unspoken, something electric. The first touch was hesitant, a brush of his fingers against mine as I reached for my glass. I looked at him, and he looked back, and there was no turning away anymore. When he kissed me, it was slow, deliberate. His lips moved against mine like he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. My breath hitched as his hands slid down my waist, pulling me close. Desire coiled inside me, sharp and insistent. My body responded before my mind could catch up, my fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him deeper into me. The night unfolded in a blur of gasps, whispered names, and tangled sheets. I had never felt so wanted, so utterly consumed. Every touch, every kiss, every sigh made me forget everything except the way he made me feel. And in that moment, I didn't care about the consequences. I didn't care about the guilt waiting for me in the morning. All I cared about was the way he held me like I was something precious. Something worth breaking the rules for. The morning after was quiet, suffocating in its stillness. I lay in bed beside Daniel, his arm draped over me, his breath slow and steady. The night had been intoxicating, but now, in the harsh light of day, reality clawed at me. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. Guilt settled in my stomach like a stone, pressing down with an unbearable weight. I slid out of bed carefully, dressing in silence, my mind a battlefield of emotions, desire, regret, fear. I avoided his eyes as I left. I didn't trust myself to speak. When I got home, Michael was still asleep, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I slipped into the bathroom and stared at my reflection. I looked the same, but I felt entirely different. I had shattered something sacred, and I wasn't sure if it could ever be pieced together again. Days passed, but the fire Daniel ignited in me didn't go out. I kept seeing him, kept wanting him, kept losing myself in him. But with each stolen moment, the weight of what we were doing became harder to ignore. Then, Lisa found out. I will never forget the look on her face when she confronted me. The betrayal, the devastation. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at me like I was a stranger. Michael found out soon after. His pain was different. Quieter, heavier. He didn't ask why. He just walked away. And just like that, everything I had built came crashing down. Was it worth it? That's the question I ask myself every day. Because in the end, desire always comes at a cost.